Hi, Cian. Thanks very much for joining us.
Hi, Tim. No problem at all. Glad to be talking to you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on. And recently, you've been appointed chairman of the Responsible Affiliates and Gambling Group. And so to start off with, I thought we could ask, for any viewers who maybe aren't familiar with RAiG or RAiG, I'm not sure if anyone pronounces it like that, or perhaps wants to know more about the UK affiliate market in general, could you tell us a little bit about your organization's aims and exactly what it does?
Yeah, sure. I think, firstly, probably a little bit of context is useful. I think, for those of us working in affiliate businesses, we talk about the kind of affiliate industry as this very niche little thing, but actually, especially when you look at it in the UK, it's exceptionally diverse. I think, both in terms of the types of products that affiliates offer, as well as the kind of scale and size and type of, companies or individuals or businesses that you get operating in it, whether media companies and that type of thing. So I think the definition of what an affiliate is not even remotely as narrow as we sometimes think it is. So to a degree, with that in mind, the concept of a kind of a representative body for affiliates has been under discussion for a long time. But in early 2019, Racing Post, Odds Checker, and Better Collective got together and over the course of a couple of months kind of set up RAiG. The primary aim, or what we were trying to do, was to, well, I think firstly kind of bring together a representative body for affiliates, because there was nothing in place. But the primary aim of the association really was to look at how we could help raise standards, particularly as it kind of relates to safer gambling. For lots and most affiliates, the kind of safe promotion of gambling was already a priority. But, rather than the direction, let's say, coming from a kind of a bookmaker and the types of restrictions that they would pass down from the UK Gambling Commission, we really wanted to take the lead on it and, kind of collectively look at ways or initiatives that we could engage in where we were helping to raise standards, I think, above and beyond just those basic requirements, and making sure that we were really leading the way on it and not just having kind of responsible gambling requirements just seen as this thing that was imposed on us.
How would you rate the kind of progress you've achieved to that end so far?
I would think it's probably in ways been more difficult than we would have expected at the outset. There's probably been a dual track approach almost. The first has been trying to make that body as representative as possible. As I said, it started off with only the three of us as the kind of founding members. So one of the things that we've obviously tried to do is grow that in terms of numbers and obviously grow that as well in terms of representation. So the different types of affiliates and the different voices that we have within that conversation. And then I think, we've tried a lot in terms of trying to engage with, people on the government side of things, on the regulatory side of things, obviously on the operator side of things as more of a collective rather than, and dealing with people at the BGC or at operators that are at a level where it's not just you're talking to an affiliate manager or whatever it might be. So I think I would say we're still probably in the early stages of some of the things that we would like to try and achieve, and the kind of wider initiatives that we would like to bring on board. One of the things that we've been looking at for the last couple of months is just, I think, ways that we can introduce training for affiliates, and we kind of looked across. Across, I think, the industry, I guess, at some of the training programs that were available, and obviously they were very, very focused on operators. And while a lot of what affiliates do from a marketing perspective is similar to what operators would do, a lot of what we do is very different. We don't have one-to-one interactions with customers for the most part. So we're basically talking to a company at the moment about tailoring a training program specifically for affiliates, because I think it's one thing to have the kind of, the intention to be a compliant business that, does its best to promote gambling in a safer way. And it's another thing then, I think, to make sure that cascades down through the levels, to make sure your staff understand what that means, to make sure that they're trained in such a way where it comes naturally to them rather than being kind of an almost by rote process that they have to stick to. I think you avoid mistakes you avoid more mistakes if people kind of fundamentally understand what it is that you're trying to do.
Sure, and highly relevant to that at the moment and to your organisation is the ongoing and upcoming UK Gambling Act review. And you spoke with our affiliate publication Trafficology recently, and you spoke a bit about that. You spoke about kind of an evidence-based approach. How confident are you that the gambling industry here, affiliates and operators like, will get a sort of fair trial in that any regulation that's put forward is based on genuine, tangible evidence?
Look, I think it's extremely difficult to kind of say exactly how it is going to play out over the next months and possibly years. I mean, I think you only have to look at the affordability review that the Gambling Commission is undergoing at the moment, and I think they got over 13,000 responses to the call for evidence. So, we are dealing with something very complex here, and I mean, the scale of the challenge is massive. Now, I mean, I guess all we know at this stage is how DCMS basically have framed the kind of the call for evidence, the terms of reference for the review itself, and the way that is presented certainly to us would give you some hope, that a measured evidence-based approach will be taken to any changes that they decide to make. Like, I think, the review itself, like, obviously one of the big things it is trying to catch up on is probably technology advances since the Act first came in. And like, that is one thing I will say, is that I think, the advances that we as an industry have made can be both positive as well as negative. Like, nobody has a bigger body of data and evidence in terms of consumer behavior and in terms of, being best placed to kind of implement evidence-based approaches to assuring, the safest possible gambling environment for all users. So I think it's important that is factored in. I think it's very easy, and I think probably even as it's getting closer to the time, it's very easy for sensationalist almost headlines to kind of take over, and I think the operators and maybe affiliates to a lesser degree are seen by some people as being the enemy, but as I said, I think they also are at the coalface here in terms of dealing with customers of every different type, including those that are at risk of problem gambling. And I think it's really important that just like the evidence from them, obviously, as well as all of the other different areas, are factored into whatever actions are taken at the end of the review.
Yeah, a couple of key things you mentioned there. One was the Gambling Commission survey, and I was one of the 13,000 respondents. But I know the Racing Post also promoted it as much as they could in terms of getting the message out there to if you care about gambling in this country and this market, have your say. The other thing you touched on, obviously, affordability. And I've been wondering a lot, if greater affordability checks are introduced, we're not quite sure, how exactly they will be, if they will be, but if they are, we can imagine the impact on operators. But how does it affect UK affiliates? Because it's slightly different, isn't it?
Well, it's different in one way and the same in another way. Just to actually touch on the point, we've obviously had a lot of coverage in the Racing Post in relation to affordability, and I think one of the key things there is that that people that enjoy, like, probably for the most part, the people that enjoy having a bet on whatever it is that they want to have a bet on, and view it as an acceptable kind of leisure activity or an acceptable way for them to spend their money. Probably a lot of them have no idea of what's going on in the background in terms of affordability reviews, regulatory reviews, Gambling Act reviews, that type of thing. And I think that was one of the kind of aims for us, was that people were educated and understood what was actually going on, and then like you said, like, we're able to have a voice in that. I think it's important that it's just not always the lens of how we look at these things. The lens of how these things are reviewed is not just on the negative side of things and the potential negative impact of it. So then, to go back to your question, like, I think to be perfectly, like, it's going to obviously depend on like what limits get imposed, and also how they're implemented, whether it's kind of background checks or whether it's very much, I guess, in your face in terms of having to send in pay slips or bank statements or whatever it might be. So it's very, like, we don't know the kind of scale of what the impact to the industry is going to be until we have more information on that. But I think on a proportionate basis, affiliates will be equally as impacted as the operators will be. A lot of affiliate commercial models are obviously linked in some way, either directly or indirectly, to an operator's commercial model. And so from that perspective, while the overall kind of actual number might be different, I think the proportional scale of it will be the same. And I think depending on the type of affiliate, their overall exposure to the UK market, like, it could obviously be seriously damaging to them and their businesses.
And what advice would you give to RAiG members and other affiliates? I take your point that you said we don't quite know exactly what's going to come in, if anything comes in. But once any new regulations are introduced, kind of how would you advise affiliates to respond?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think probably the most obvious thing is that if and when new regulations do come in, it's obviously important that all affiliates, like they are now, are trying to be compliant with them in every way they possibly can. But I think like as it relates to this year, it's almost, to me, kind of like a step too late at the time the regulations come in. I would view it as being really important that affiliates, no different to the previous point on kind of customers, that affiliates really engage with this process, understand what's actually going on, understand the potential impact, and try to make sure that their voices are heard in this debate. Like, affiliates play a really important role in the kind of wider gambling ecosystem, and I think it's really important that the people that are going to conduct these reviews and ultimately decide what will or won't be implemented, that they understand that role that affiliates play. And I think I would also think about it particularly in the context of the kind of wider, safer gambling efforts that the industry wants to get behind, that again, affiliates play a unique but potentially very important role in that. And so I think making sure that we're understood, like engaging with the process, making sure the kind of wide range of what affiliates do, and making sure that's understood and not just potentially viewed in a negative light, but actually properly understood, I think is a very important thing over the next couple of months. And making sure that that as part of any new, as I said, regulations that come in, that is considered.
Yeah, you talked about the importance of the kind of the voice of affiliates in any debate, and obviously there's the public narrative, and you mentioned earlier that there's sensationalist headlines and there can be a negative narrative quite often with gambling. A point your predecessor Clive Hawkswood raised with us when he took the role of your current role of chairman at the time. He said the actions of certain bad actors in the industry will always kind of affect the sector's reputation as a whole. So, one bad sort of act, the newspapers jump onto it, the whole industry is affected, that kind of thing. In the current climate, especially with pandemic and lockdowns, how can the affiliate industry in general kind of try and safeguard against this?
Yeah, so I think there's probably a couple of things in that. So the first is, I think if someone is set on being a bad actor, I don't think there's anything that we or anybody can necessarily specifically do about them. That's a choice that they've made in terms of how they want to run the business. Obviously, a key focus for us within RAiG is, and our affiliate businesses, is the channeling of customers to fully regulated and licensed operators. But I think, probably going back to the previous point I made, the risk to us, then also, you have risks around, a well-intentioned business making a mistake as it relates to this, and it being a bad act, without necessarily them being a bad actor. And I think that goes back to the kind of education and training point, and making sure that we have as much protection in place to make sure that, that our actions kind of match our intentions as businesses. And then I think, the bit that we can do in terms of safeguarding is, like I said, probably at best the affiliates in the affiliate industry are misunderstood. At worst, we're seen through a negative light in terms of the overall industry. And I think it's really important that we explain to people and educate people on that role that we play in the wider kind of, I guess, spectrum of the industry. The service that we provide to customers, the part that we play in their user journey, in many cases, the very, very different relationship that we have with customers compared to the relationship that an operator would have with a customer. So I think, affiliates is obviously a very common business model across loads of other sectors, and is almost always, a business that is there to benefit the end customer in some way or other, whether it's, through choice, through education, through kind of information. So like it's, as I said, it's a common business practice across loads of other industries. And I think, but as I said, it is probably in the wrong places, at least misunderstood as it relates to gambling. And I think that is the role that we can play in terms of trying to safeguard against the bad actor element of it, is making sure that the good actor element of it is properly understood, and the steps that we're taking and like how we run our businesses is properly understood, and we're seen, we're seen, I guess, as the kind of the compliant businesses that we are.
Certainly, yeah. And as you talk to us now, as well as RAiG, you of course represent Spotlight Sports Group and the Racing Post. So just a word from that perspective. What are the group's plans? Because I know you're a key affiliate in the UK market. What are the group's plans for 2021 in the UK? Given that also this Gambling Act review we've talked about, we don't know how, but it may affect your operations, for the rest of the year.
Yeah, so, well, I mean, the Spotlight Sports Group, we obviously have an international and B2B focus, as well as what we do as an affiliate business in the UK. So, those threads are obviously continuing as well. But I think probably from the UK perspective, the thing that we're mostly focused on is, at least from a delivery perspective, is we're in the middle of a complete rebuild of the Racing Post's digital properties at the moment, both the apps and the web. We're probably different from most affiliates in that, we are different from most affiliates in we offer an integrated betting service where, you can bet directly through the Racing Post with most of the major bookmakers in the UK. And last year we completed the integration of Sky Bet, which took us to basically 7 integrated bookmakers in the app. And since then we've kind of begun rebuilding that. So we've all our technology is handled in-house, and we in kind of early last year basically decided that we wanted to completely rebuild that proposition. We had all the bookmakers that we wanted in it, and that the way that we could deliver the most value to our customers was by upgrading the technology platform. So the app itself, the apps across Android and iOS should launch in the summer of this year, and we're really excited actually about some of the things that we'll be bringing to the table, and what we'll be able to do with that for our customers.
Yes, certainly sounds like a busy time. A final question for you. This concerns Spotlight Sports Group and RAiG and in general. Can I ask your sort of your outlook, your broad outlook for UK affiliates in 2021, given everything we've discussed and given everything that's on the horizon? Hopefully there can be some positive messages in there. But yeah, do you have any projections, or maybe not quite crystal ball predictions, but your take on the year ahead?
Yeah, I definitely don't have a crystal ball, but I think, look, there was a couple of key probably messages. The first is that some of the things that are going to unfold this year, while are not necessarily fully in our control, are not necessarily something that we should sit on the sidelines and just watch happen either. So we have an important contribution to make to everything that's ongoing. I think for not just affiliates, for anyone operating in the UK gambling space, 2021 is going to be a transformational year. I think as I said earlier, I'm hopeful that an evidence-based approach will be taken to any action that is taken as a result of the reviews, and I think that would certainly give some hope. I think the Gambling Act review was due. It originally came in 16 years ago, and it was intended that it would be reviewed on a regular basis to keep pace with change, and that clearly hasn't happened, and there's a bit of catch up to be played now. So, but as I said, I think it has been set out in a way that is certainly at least a couple of steps removed from some of the more sensationalist stuff that we've seen and the bad press that we've seen. over the last number of, gathered pace over the last number of years. And look, I would say that the one huge positive that I would see is that the review of the Gambling Act in particular has been looming for a while. It's now started. We have some idea of timeframes, and at least once we come out the far side of it, we will have a degree of certainty, over what the kind of, I would think, medium to long-term future of the UK market will look like, the type of regulations that will be in place, the type of operating environment that will be there. And I think, look, all any business can ask for is kind of, certainty in terms of knowing what the long-term outlook looks like.
Well, Cian, thank you very much for your time and for your insight, and best of luck with everything with RAiG and Spotlight Sports Group in 2021.
No problem at all. Thanks very much.